Oh, you quoted the title
You
of
got
this
start
show.
real quick. You
Yep.
got start.
Okay. Once I pondered, weak and weary. Oh man,
Wildlife.
I messed up.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary,
Over many
came
quaint
a-
forgotten lore. Well, while I nodded nearly happy, suddenly this someone
there
gently
went the whole intro.
rapping at the floor. I knew this poem. I had to learn this poem in high school, and I knew it backwards and forwards, and I can't believe I messed it up on here. This episode is called Quote the Raven Nevermore. Welcome, everybody, under the dome. And I love Edgar Allan Poe, and I can't believe I messed that up. I cannot believe I did. That's terrible. That really is. When I call myself an English major, God. Anyway.
I missed the joke.
Oh, I started doing the Raven, and I messed up the poem, and he corrected me of all people. So, anyway, so I have him in stitches because I did the first stanza of the Raven from Edgar Allan Poe.
I was going to use that as the title last week going into the Ravens game, but I thought, if you do that, it's going to come across as arrogant and it's going to jinx us. No, we're just going to wait.
It works perfectly because, quote the Raven, nevermore will we hear about the only team this Drew Brees has not beaten is the Baltimore Ravens. So it fits today. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. This is week 8, even though we already had our bye. This is week 8 coming in the midpoint of the season, and we're going to be playing the Vikings, and of course we're going to wrap up final commentary on Sunday's exciting, incredible win that I have to thank former WWL sportscaster, in fact, Chris Myers, when he was on WWL Sports, he used to do 4th down on 4 back in the 80s and the early 90s when you were around, and then he went on to Fox Sports. But every time Chris Myers came on and he was talking about Justin Tucker, he said, he never misses. Well, that's a guaranteed announcer jinx. You knew he was going to miss because you kept saying he never missed. So get your heart medication ready because we've got 10 more weeks of this coming up. Welcome, everybody, to Under the Dome, host Alan Ulrich, with my giggling here, Sean Williams. He's a lot better than he did last week. How you doing tonight, Sean?
I'm doing outstanding, man. My heart is just about to get back into regular rhythm since that eventful Sunday. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight and welcome you to Under the Dome, a show for Saints fans, by Saints fans, and we want to thank Fan First Productions for sponsoring us. Invite you guys to subscribe to us on iTunes and on YouTube. Really quick, I want to throw an advertisement out there. If you're in the Northeast Louisiana area, what is it called? Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Okay. Let me make sure that I got this right here. There is a outstanding restaurant that is going to open in our area here in West Monroe. I believe it's across the river, so it'll be Monroe actually. And the name of it. Okay. Here we go. Okay. It's called Two Dudes Brew and Q. It will be opening November 23rd at 10:30 a.m. And the address is 436 Desert Street, right down in the heart of the old downtown district. They have a open air patio, 6 TVs on the patio, 42-inch to 70-inch screens, 8 TVs inside, 70-inch flat screens to watch any kind of sporting events that you can possibly imagine. Full bar, 10 beers on tap. And Kevo and Chris, they can do stuff with barbecue that and other things, but mainly barbecue that wouldn't believe were possible. These guys are phenomenal when it comes to this barbecue stuff. Kevo and Chris are real good friends of mine, and I want to invite everybody to go out and support them as their business is opening. Again, that's Two Dudes Brew and Q, 436 Desert Street in Monroe, Louisiana. And moving right along, getting to our very special guest again tonight. We tried 2 weeks ago, and unlike a lot of the guests that we have, we couldn't get him on the following week because he had a TV taping in at Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's our buddy, our friend of the show, former New Orleans Saint wide receiver Quinn Early. How you doing tonight, Quinn?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me, you guys. Good to be here.
Glad to have you back on, Quinn. Basically, we want to get you to talk about what we were going to have you on last time to talk about. Talk about Brian Akers. Talk about the event coming up on November 3rd, and just all the prizes and what people need to do to get get there.
Okay, so for all of you that don't know, my mom, this amazing book called Brian Akers. It's about a man named Sherrod Bryant. He was a free man of color during slavery. He sold himself into indentured servitude and went on to become one of the biggest landowners in the South during the time, which is a pretty amazing story. And he was my great-grandfather, 7th generation removed. And my mom, before she had a chance to publish this book, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and passed away from it. But before she did, she asked me to have the book published for her, so I did. And all of the money that I'm raising from the book, I'm giving to Alzheimer's research. So it's a pretty amazing story. And what's going on is on November the 3rd, I'm going to be coming to New Orleans. I'm going to do a walk with the Alzheimer's Association in Mandeville. So anybody who wants to come join me on that walk, you just come out. Let's have some conversation. Let's talk. Let's walk. Would love to see you there. And then that afternoon, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., with myself, Torrance Small, Tyrone Hughes, Ricky Jackson, former Saints. We're going to try to get a couple of other people there. And what I would like people to do is go onto my website, which is bryantakers.com. And if you order the book and you email me a receipt of the book to bryantakers@gmail.com. I know it's a lot. I'll repeat it. Then you'll be entered into a contest. That contest, there'll be 2 winners who will win a 2018 autographed Saints football helmet. So screenshot that receipt that you purchased the book, send it to bryantakers@gmail.com for a chance to win a football helmet autographed by the entire Saints team from this year. And there'll be one grand prize winner that'll have dinner with us at Impostata's on November the 3rd. So, and then the meet and greet from 5 to 7 at Impostata's, 5 to 7. Everybody can just come down. We'll sign autographs, just kind of hang out and, you know, have a beer or two or a Coke or whatever you're drinking, and we'll just have a good time. You know, so my main goal for my mom's book is A, to get the story out there, obviously, and then B, just to raise money for this horrible disease that affects so many people. So that's what I have going on. So I'll be there for that Rams game that week and proceed. We'll have a good time down at Impostata's.
Well, it sounds like a great event, great cause, of course. And I really encourage as many people as possible to come down and join us. And especially get this book. Please get this book. It's a unique perspective of what it was like in pre-Civil War times in America and what it was like to travel through that period. Because people have, I don't know how to explain this properly, but people have very incorrect, I guess the best way to put it, ideas about what life was really like in the antebellum South and what life was like in the United States at that point. Beginning with just the idea of you were loyal to your state and you were loyal to what you knew, your world, as opposed to being a citizen of the United States. So, things change from state to state depending on where you live. And that influences a lot of what you see, what Quinn's family talks about in this book, the differences when you went from state to state, just the way it was almost like you were going from country to country in some ways, just because the United States was so different back then.
It was also, I'll tell you, it was. The thing is, with technology now, the world is a lot smaller.
Mm-hmm.
You used to have to send a letter that would take 2 weeks to get there.
Right.
Now you just text somebody and you get an answer in 30 seconds. So the world is a lot smaller. But you're absolutely correct. It was different from state to state. It was almost like each state was its own country.
Yeah.
But it's just a really cool book. And again, the money goes to a good cause. And, I just encourage everybody to go to brianakers.com and order the book.
Absolutely.
I've talked to my wife, and
Sean, did you want to ask something? I'm sorry.
I've talked to my wife, and I've told her all about
Sean?
Am I not on?
No, you're on. I don't know what happened there, but go ahead. Try again.
Okay. Gremlins! I've talked to my wife, and she's anxious to read the book as I am. And we're in the process of doing that. Of course, just for the record, this is kind of like not meant to dissuade anybody, but Alan and I are going to be there on the 3rd too.
Everybody has to definitely come now.
Yeah.
So there'll be people standing by to take your picture with Quinn or Ricky or Tyrone or all of the above. So Alan and I'll be there to help serve.
Yeah, that's about right. That's far more accurate.
We want to thank Quinn so much for including us in this event. For what Alan and I do, having the opportunity to have a Quinn Early or a Tyrone Hughes or a Kyle Turley or a Joe Horn on our show, that's great. But in the grand scheme of things, up until November the 3rd, just to use this as an example, up until November the 3rd, Quinn Early is a 1 inch by 1 inch square on the bottom of my screen. But I'm here to tell you people, having had conversations with him both on the show and off the show, I believe I told him this the other day. The fact that he played football for the New Orleans Saints, that makes him cool to me. But that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of just exactly what type of man that Quinn Early is. He's a stand-up guy, and he stands for something. And if you spend all of your life chasing after this big dream of being this huge superstar for yourself, that's great. But for someone like Quinn to take what he's been given and what he's earned on the football field and to be able to use that to benefit others, I think that is absolutely the most incredible thing that you could possibly do. I respect Quinn. He's a part of the New Orleans Saints fabric. Absolutely. I respect Quinn for that. But I respect him so much more because of the man that he is. And I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. That means a lot. It really does. I appreciate
Okay. Did we cover everything with the contest?
Let's get to football. Let's talk about.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Quinn, you in your career, I believe, was it 12 years?
Yeah, 12 years.
Okay. In your 12 years, you happened upon the circumstance where you had to change teams more than once. But today, the Saints made a trade deadline beating deal to acquire the services of one Eli Apple from the New York Giants.
Right.
Giving us a bit of a perspective from the other side of it, how do you think that this trade is going to possibly affect Eli?
Well, and we talked briefly about it before the show started, but, in parallel with what's going on with Eli from a player perspective, when I got drafted by the San Diego Chargers in 1988, played there for a few years. Bobby Beathard came in to be the general manager. And, for whatever reason, I was on the top of his get rid of list. And I believe that, he didn't really think that a wide receiver from the Big Ten, the University of Iowa, could play that position. And, they got rid of me, or they really didn't want me to stick around. So that gave me an opportunity to come and play for the Saints, which, again, I'm very grateful for. Best time of my life. But what that did was that put a chip on my shoulder. I think that when I got drafted by the Chargers, I thought that, well, this is my team. This is where I'm going to be. I didn't realize the gravity of if, they could cut you, they could get rid of you anytime. If somebody doesn't like you, it's a business. So when I went to the Saints, it was almost like a switch flipped, and it made me, I want to prove this guy wrong. I want to prove everybody wrong. I want to show everybody what a player I am and how effective I can be in this league. And that really helped me to play well and have a good long career. So with that being said, I look at Eli Apple, and I know that, the rap on him is that he hasn't played up to his first round status. Some people are saying that he's not really a good locker room guy, and all, I don't know if that's true or not. But when these things occur, I think as a player, you tend to reevaluate, okay, well, what's going on? What am I doing? What can I do to make sure that I'm around, the career is going to go well? So hopefully that's the case with him. Hopefully him coming to New Orleans will be a plus and help the team. I guess time will tell.
Yeah, he's actually joining 5 other former Buckeyes in New Orleans. So it's basically now become the New Orleans Buckeyes or the or Ohio State Saints, depending on how you want to look at it.
Right.
But yeah, I think being around his former teammates, like a Marshawn Lattimore, like a Ted Ginn Jr., like a Michael Thomas, I think those are the kind of things that will kind of make him fit in that locker room a lot better. Plus, the Giants have been losing a lot, and nothing hurts a locker room more than losing, because it doesn't take long before finger pointing begins.
Right.
And once you get the finger pointing, then people become cancers. Then people become disruptive forces, because they're not, especially a player that comes from a successful program like Ohio State, they're not used to the losing. So, I look at it from the standpoint of, yes, this is a great opportunity for him to, kind of revitalize his career. He won't have the pressure on him in New Orleans to be that number 1 cornerback, because we have that with Lattimore.
Right.
He 10th round. He was not 10th, but 10th overall pick, not 10th rounder, but 10th overall pick, and that means that you are drafting this guy to be a Deion Sanders shut down kind of cornerback. And if you're not that, especially in the New York market, they're going to let you know.
Right.
And I think in a city like New Orleans, there's just going to be less pressure on him to be that shutdown corner. Just make some plays for us, get some turnovers, and I think the fans will be a lot happier with you than the pressure you had in New York.
I agree. I definitely think he's coming to a better situation. And like I mentioned, the fact that he can say, you know what, I'm going to prove all these people wrong. The fans were probably against him in New York. They're thinking that he's a problem child in the locker room.
Yep.
Listen, this is just a fresh start for him. He's obviously got the talent, right? Coming out.
Absolutely.
He's a first-round pick, for God's sake. A lot of people have asked him. So this could be a really good thing for everyone, I think.
Actually drafted ahead of Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
The thing that people have asked me all day long, excuse me, all afternoon about my thoughts on it. And I've heard all of the negative talk coming out of New York, but you got to look at the fact that the New York Giants right now are one step away from being a dumpster fire. Yeah. Eli Apple could very easily be the first domino to fall in a fire sale going on there. They have no confidence in the leadership. They have no confidence in the ownership. They have no confidence in the roster. It's really hard to gauge a player's true worth in that situation, in my eyes. Now, all that being said, there is the guy has to have the ability. The talent has to be there because, as I just said, Marshawn Lattimore was drafted here at I think number 20.
11. No, 11 in 2017.
Yeah, he was drafted actually after Eli Apple. So the talent has to be there. There was something about this guy that made this NFL team go after him so aggressively and make him their first-round draft pick. You don't just blow a first-round draft pick on let's see what he can do.
Let me just say, too, that sometimes when a team is, 1-6 or 2-5, whatever the case may be, a lot of times they start looking for, what's the problem? It's almost like having a bucket with 10 holes in it and the water's filling out everywhere. And let's fill this, let's stop this leak here, and then it's still leaking over here. So, sometimes that happens too, and he might just be a casualty of that, So, but like you said, I think that, him coming here or him coming to New Orleans and not having the pressure, he can just get in. He'll be welcomed by his new teammates. It's a great city. I think it's just such a good organization. I think everybody will take him under their wings, and I think it's going to turn out okay for him. I think it's going to be good for the team.
Absolutely.
To be totally honest with you, and I've made no secret about that, I don't think that my disappointment in PJ Williams up to this point, not just in 2018, but I mean the first two seasons that we had him, we got absolutely nothing out of him for whatever reason. I don't see how the Saints can really lose. They traded a 4th round pick this year and a 7th round next year to get
he'll get in the game pretty quick.
Yeah,
he's going to be in there. So,
but I don't think that they're going to throw him out there to post up on Adam Thielen come Sunday. But he's going to make a contribution immediately.
He'll make a contribution, I think, this first game, and then I think they'll, once he gets the system down and he feels pretty comfortable with it, he'll be out there.
Quinn, that's a good question I wanted to ask you. As a former player, how long does it usually take a guy to kind of get to learn the playbook or defensive calls enough that coaches feel confident enough to put him out there?
Well, what I'll say is that it's pretty across the board as far as schemes go. It's just a matter of, everybody knows a cover 2, everybody knows a cover 3, a cover 1, whatever the coverage is. It's just a matter of getting the nuances of what the coordinator is looking for, and some of the terminology will be slightly different, but it's pretty much the same across the board. So, you're a professional. you take 3 or 4 days to really study. You take a week or two in practice just to really feel comfortable with it, so whether you're not thinking, because as you guys know, this game is not a game where you can go, oh, well, maybe I should shoot this gap, or maybe I should take an outside. You know, you can't. You have to react and you have to play. So I think it's just a matter of getting acclimated, but it has to happen pretty quickly. And I think most guys are pretty adept at being able to make that happen. I know for me, you know, having many different quarterbacks and many different offenses and coaches getting fired and all that stuff, it was just a matter of memorizing terminology. Because once you get the terminology down, the schemes are pretty similar and pretty much the same. So I think you'll be fine. I think it won't take them long.
Okay, I promise I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I got to ask, what was the most difficult scheme you had to learn?
The most difficult scheme. Remember, man, I played a while ago, so
Yeah.
it's going to take me a minute to come up with it. I have to say, probably my first year, because I was a rookie, right?
Yeah.
And I'm coming from college to the NFL and having to learn these schemes. So I think figuring out how to be a pro and how to be efficient very quickly, you know, because it was all of a sudden, you know, when you're in college, they teach you all the stuff and they pretty much walk you through it. In the NFL, the first day of practice, you get in the huddle, they call the play and okay, let's go. And you better make a play or else they're going, what's wrong with them? And then they'll take you out and put somebody else in. So things happen very fast. So I think that my very first year of playing was the hardest time I had.
Was that still Bobby Ross? Was Bobby Ross still the head coach of the Chargers, or was it somebody else by that?
It was Al Saunders.
Ah, okay, yeah, I do remember Al.
Steve Ortmeyer was the general manager, and they had drafted Anthony Miller out of Tennessee. Was the first pick, and then I was the next pick. And yeah, those were some hard years, man. We were 6-10 every single year I played there, and it was, boy, you could cut that, you could rip that team picture in half and throw it in the trash. Boy, there were times when I'd come to practice and I'd get in the huddle and I'd be looking at a guy. I'd never seen this guy before. There'd be 2 guys in the huddle. It seemed every week.
You know, Archie Manning has a story very similar to that during his playing years, because he said they were go-to players so quickly that he didn't know who the hell somebody was that was walking in a huddle. You know, and run some kind of pass pattern to this guy, and Archie's like, I've never seen this guy before. You know, and come up the streets. You know, so that's funny that you brought that up. Yeah, Bobby Ross, I think, came in the mid-90s. He went to the Super Bowl in '95. So I know he was a coach.
Yeah, he came right after. So I came to the New Orleans in '91.
Right.
And I believe, and then because in '89, Al Saunders didn't last long. They brought in God, I can't think of his name right now, and I love the guy.
From Dallas?
No, yeah, Dan Henning.
Dan Henning.
They brought in Dan Henning, and then once I came to the Saints, I think he was there from '90. I want to say 90 to 92 or 3, and then Ross came after that.
Okay, yeah. Dan Henning went to the Panthers. I think after they fired the old Saints secondary coach Dom Capers. I think Dan Henning came.
So remember. So Dan went also. So he went there, but he was. My very last year, I had left the Bills, and I got a call from Dan, and he was the office coordinator, or he was the quarterback coach over at the Jets under Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells called me, "Come on, man, we need one." So I went and signed with the Jets, and Dan Henning was the quarterback coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't say the coordinator I thought you were going to say, but that's all right. We're not going to go into that.
Who are we talking about?
Carl Smith. I didn't know how complicated Carl Smith's offense was.
You don't like what's somebody you didn't like, Carl?
Oh, the master of the pattern at 3rd and 7. Yes. Yes. Nobody calls 3rd and 7 plays quite like Carl Smith. Oh, and I don't. I met the man, and he's a very nice guy, and that's why I didn't want to throw anybody under the bus. It's just as a fan, you were like, why? Why are you trying to get this receiver to try and fight for those extra yards? Let him go to the sticks and get the first down. So
If we're gonna throw anybody under the bus, who better than Carl Smith?
it just it brings up a lot of bad memories. I'm sorry,
Doesn't it though?
But once we got Jim Everett, and once you had Michael Haynes, Torrance Small, Wesley Walls, that offense seemed to finally kind of take the step. I thought we were going to take that next step in 1996.
I did too, and I got to tell you that the chemistry and the camaraderie on those teams for that short period of time was the best of my career. Me and Torrance were joking about that just last week. We were on the phone, and we spent a lot of time together. We went to dinner together. We would watch the UFC fights at each other's houses. I mean, we were an extremely close group, and I think that really could have been magic if somehow we could have stayed together for a few years, because that was, man, what a good time.
Yeah, and I really think the Saints did not understand, that front office did not understand how free agency worked. And they were still trying to lowball guys, thinking, where the hell are you going to go? And not realizing that you got a lot of places you can go.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. It was frustrating.
Hey, Jim was mad. Jim, I remember vividly in the newspaper, Jim said, you're getting rid of all my guys. You got rid of Quinn, you got rid of Wesley. Wesley Walls, of course, explodes over with Carolina.
Yep. Man, what a good player he was, man. He was something else. He's a good guy, too. I mean, like I said, we had a really close group. We did a lot of family stuff together, and we had the potential, for sure.
Well, one of your former teammates' son plays for Alabama, Irv Smith.
That's
His
right.
son, Irv Smith Jr. is on Alabama, so I watch him playing in that game, too. Yep. I'm sorry, Sean. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Quinn, from a player's perspective, there's been this running narrative for so long now. The Saints are a dome team. They do this. This is what it is. Drew Brees is a dome quarterback, a system quarterback. Yeah. When he gets outside in the elements, his game. And for a long time, that seemed to bear out. But could you, from the other side of the curtain, so to speak, could you, from a player's perspective, how big was this win Sunday against the Ravens?
Oh my God, it was huge. It was huge win, and the team's doing phenomenally. And people are going to say that until you prove it wrong. But when you think about it, Drew played at Purdue. That's the crappiest weather. That Midwest weather. And listen, I'm not bagging on Purdue. I'm saying that the Midwest. I mean, I played at Iowa, for God's sakes, and it was 20 below zero, and I'm like, what am I doing here?
Hey, y'all still got the best jerseys in college football. I love those Steelers-looking jerseys.
I got to tell you, I don't mean to change the subject, but I have to tell you that was a big factor in me going to Iowa.
Really?
So growing up, I grew up on Long Island, and I didn't like the Giants or the Jets. I was a Steelers fan. Terry Bradshaw.
Oh yeah. You're talking. That's my generation, man. You're talking about me.
And when Iowa came, and they were like, we want you to come to our school, and I saw those uniforms, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna come to your school.
Give me number 88. I'm gonna wear 88.
Yeah, that's huge when you're 18. But anyway, so back to what we were talking about. I think that it's just a matter of just proving everybody wrong. And let me just say that I am so proud and happy for Drew. Nobody deserves those accolades and those milestones more than he does, man. Because what a great guy he is. Great family man, a great teammate. He's He's a pillar of the community. You know, just how many charities, how much help he does. I mean, I could go on, but I'm just extremely happy for him. And man, what a great season they're having. You know, I can't wait so, you know, again, I'm going to be there on the 3rd. I'm going to go to the game on the 4th, and that's against the Rams, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
That will really tell the story. That will really tell the story of where they're at. Because, man, that Rams team is a good team.
Are you gonna have, I'm sorry, Sean, let me ask him this question real quick. Are you going to be one of the Mike Haas's guests in a dome where he's going to introduce you to the crowd or anything like that?
Oh, I don't know. I was just invited to come. I'm going to go, and whatever happens.
Absolutely.
Expectations of it.
That's the way I feel when my wife cooks supper, man. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna represent, and whatever happens after that is all gravy.
There you go. There you go.
I can't say enough about how important beating Baltimore, not just because of the fact that Baltimore is one of the better teams in the AFC at this point, because once again, for the second time in this young season, the Saints went up against the number 1 defense in the league, a team that hadn't allowed a touchdown in the second half all season long, a team that plays in an outdoor stadium. The Saints went in and scored 17 points in the second half. They came from behind. Tom Benson up in the heavens blew that Justin Tucker kick sideways. The announcer's curse is a real thing. I told Alan a while ago, the first time he kicked an extra point after Baltimore scored their first touchdown, they started right then, and every time that they scored a touchdown, Chris Myers made a point. He has never, in 222 tries, he has never missed an extra point. Now, I looked at my wife and I said, you know, it's going to be funny if it comes down to him kicking an extra point and he misses for the Saints to win this game. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. But I think that you saw for the first time this season the grit, the determination, and what you saw. Normally, what you get when you watch the Saints, you're looking at probably the first 20, 25 plays being scripted. But what you saw on Sunday was, we're going to keep our offense on the field. You're looking at a game plan that was specially put together just for Baltimore. We're going to keep our offense on the field. We're going to wear your defense down, and then we're going to beat you to death in the fourth quarter.
You know, I totally agree with that, because my attitude was, we didn't score, but that 20-play drive to open the game showed you what kind of game this was going to be. It showed all the fans of Baltimore, showed the Baltimore Ravens football team, this is the kind of game it's going to be. Every time they stopped you on third down, put their fists up, fourth down, we're going to, time to get off the field. Oh, no, we're going for it. And we're going to go for it in different ways, whether it's a fake punt, whether it's a quarterback sneak, a handoff to Mark Ingram. No, we're going for it. So buckle up, Buttercup, because you're going to be here all day. And I said, well, to nobody, because I'm watching the game by myself, but I said out loud, I said, you know what? Come the fourth quarter, the Ravens are going to get worn out, because the Saints were playing the Ravens kind of game. They weren't going to throw the ball over the field and Drew Brees try and throw for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns, all this stuff. No, they came out there. They ran the ball 39 times. I think they threw the ball 33 times. So, it was going to be, it might be Ingram. It might be Kamara. It might be Hill. You don't know who's going to get the ball. We're playing 3-card Monty out here. We're moving players around, and you got to find the card. Where's the card? Where's the queen? Where's the queen? Find the lady. And that's what they did to those guys. And it really, I think this was a statement game. I think this is a game they needed to play to get them ready for the Vikings this week. I think it's a game that needs to get them ready to play the Rams and the Eagles. All these are 50-50 defenses. So I was really happy with the game plan. I was happy with the way they played. And yes, I'm glad they won too.
Well, remember a few weeks ago when I was on, I think they had lost their first game, and I think they barely won their second game, and we were kind of like, oh, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the comments I made, really important as an offense to be able to run the ball. I don't know, right? That Drew can throw for 500 yards a game.
Yeah.
Or 5 touchdowns or whatever. But you have the running backs that we have, and you can be balanced like that. It really messes with the defense because you don't know what's coming at you. Yeah, you can stop, one guy. You can stop Kamara, but then Thomas is going to catch a touchdown pass. You can stop Thomas, but then Ingram is going to, bust one. So that's what's really good right now. I think that, again, that defense, especially the front, they just got to put pressure on that offense, pressure on the quarterbacks. And if that defensive line can stop people, we can keep the other team from, down to a minimum. I mean, sky's the limit. I mean, I think we can go far.
Absolutely. One last thing, I thought my favorite play of the whole game had to have been when Jimmy Smith came in on that blitz and Drew Brees is going down, and before his knees touch, he throws that ball all on to Michael Thomas, and Michael Thomas picks up that first down. And that was on third down.
Yeah.
That first down, because I'm like, oh, that's it. I mean, that the Ravens are doing everything they know how to do, and you still can't stop us. And so that was probably one of my favorite plays of the ball game.
Absolutely.
I don't think that I love the way that it just happens to play out because you play the Ravens, who, while maybe not as lauded an opponent at this point in the season, they're very good, but you have to play them. And then moving from that, a week later, you have to play the Minnesota Vikings. You have to exorcise the demons in the house where your season ended a year ago. And then from that, you have to move on to the cream of the crop, the number one team in the NFC right now. Yep. I love the way that this is played out. And I'm anxious to see exactly how this team is going to rise to the occasion.
Absolutely. That's what you see what you're made of. When you play the good teams, I mean, it would be easy to play the Browns every week or the Bills or teams like that, right? But you want to play the best teams and you want to see what you're made of. And, your goal is to get to that bowl and win it, right? So these are good tests. These are definitely good tests coming up.
Absolutely. So let's make sure we're staying on task because my screen keeps So, who would you say then were the players of the game in this game? We'll start with you, Quinn. Who do you think, if you had to give out a game ball, who would you give the game balls out to?
For this past game?
Yeah, for the Ravens game. I'm sorry.
Definitely Drew. I think, like you said, he made some incredible plays there. Michael Thomas what a season that guy's having, man. I mean, he's on pace for over 100 catches and, 13, 14, who knows how many yards.
And he's caught like 98% of the passes thrown to him, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So I definitely think that those two, for this past game.
How about you, Sean? Who would you give a game ball to?
Oh, wow. Justin Tucker first. I'm sorry.
The face that launched 1,000 memes.
Much against and this is going to sound like a contradiction. It really will. Begrudgingly, I got to give one to Taysom Hill.
You have to.
I know you never thought you'd hear me say that, but I will say this with the caveat: stop being a smart ass with number 7. Stop taking a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback out from I can't say out from under center, but out from behind the center in a first and goal situation. You put a novelty act in, he pitches the ball, and it takes the top of Kamara's head off. Leave your Hall of Fame quarterback in goal line situations, please. Okay, rant over. I think that as Quinn alluded to, you have to absolutely acknowledge the effort of both Drew and Mike. Excuse me, can't guard Mike. Defensively, the entire team. Cam Jordan, his effort stood out because every time I looked up, he was either putting pressure on Flacco or in the neighborhood. The defensive front, they kept beating on them and kept beating on them and kept beating on them. The defensive backfield, there were a few moments, but ultimately, you get the W. So I think that the effort in the secondary needs to be better. Of course, obviously we went out and we traded for a cornerback today, but I think a lot more needs to be recognized about how well that the linebackers are playing, considering that was such a deficient area a year ago. They're covering those intermediate routes that were just absolutely hamstringing this team a year ago.
Can I just say this, and I can't believe that I'm saying this because I'm a receiver, right? But the way the game is set up now, the corners are kind of screwed. I mean, you can't touch the guys.
Yep.
You can't hit them when they're in the air, right? They're a defensive receiver. It's just so skewed against them. So, but with that being said, like I had said earlier in the broadcast, that I think you circumvent that with defensive line play. Put that pressure on the quarterback, make them make bad decisions, make them make bad throws, you make them make the wrong throws, and then that helps out the secondary and stuff like that. But those guys definitely have things stacked against them. Again, the receiver in me, I can't believe it. That's pretty much where the game is going nowadays.
Yeah, they're not going to revoke your membership.
Okay.
No. I was just going to say, if you think about that game too, how many times did we see Flacco, seem to have hours of pocket time, but he had nobody to throw to. I mean, for somebody who had so much time, he's looking. I'm watching his head turn, and he's making 3 and 4 reads, and then going back to his first read to see if somebody's come open yet. And he throws it away. Now, unfortunately, we would end up giving up a 3rd or 4th down conversion. But, if we could just get more consistent play out of the secondary.
One thing, Alan, real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
On our live chat, Chad Parfait threw something up that I didn't even enter my mind, and I don't know why. Because my biggest reservation going into the Ravens game was the fact that we were going to be without Andrus Peat. We were going to be without Jermon Bushrod.
Yeah.
And at this point, our thoughts and prayers go out to Bushrod and his family.
Then you lose Josh Laribas during the game in the first quarter.
We're down to the 3rd string offensive guard. And before halftime, the amazing job that these guys did to provide running lanes, to provide Drew time to throw the ball, that deserves to be commended as well.
And Armstead basically shut down Terrell Suggs, who's probably one of the best pass rushers in the league. So those are all very, very good players, all worthy of game balls. I want to say one other thing about that final play that they scored a touchdown on. Marcus Williams got hurt about 2 plays before that play, and he was out. So you had Von Bell playing in Williams' spot. And I had forgotten about this when I wrote up my little review of the game. And earlier in the game, we dropped several interceptions during the game, but earlier in the game, there was a play right to that same end zone, right in that same corner, where Lattimore stuck with his man, got to the goal line. Here comes Marcus Williams, and they're both looking up at the ball. They're not looking at where each other are. And they collide, and they drop, and which should have been a Marcus Williams interception. They dropped that. Later on, it's almost like they ran the exact same pattern, except this time Lattimore assumed the safety was going to come and undercut the ball. The ball is better thrown, but he's going to undercut the ball. So Lattimore passes him off to Von Bell. Now, Von Bell's not used to being that kind of cover safety. He's more of the, play in the box kind of safety. He is not in position. He's not fast enough to run it down and get the interception. So it looks like a blown coverage, wide open. The guy gets behind Lattimore. Why is Lattimore passing him off? And I think that play kind of played back in Lattimore's mind, like what Tim was talking about, where you don't think you react. I think his reaction was, I'm going to let it go and watch underneath guy, and it was a mistake. And that's why Sean said it was bad defense. So there's a lot of moving parts to that play. And I know that's not something I want to give game balls to, but at the same time, I want to give a game ball to Lattimore because Lattimore really shut down whoever he was covering almost the whole game. It was really, they were getting plays off of P.J. Williams and Crawley, and that's why I think we made the trade for Eli Apple, because they want to kind of get those guys in better position, get somebody out there, somebody else who can go out there and be maybe a better guy.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The only time that they really got substantial gains was when they managed to rotate that receiving core to where John Brown was matched up with either P.J. Williams or Crawley.
Yeah, well, and in Crawley's defense too, in the one big play that they got it down to the 1 yard line, Crawley was covering. He's trailing Brown, and Brown is, of course, one of the fastest receivers in the NFL. But Brown, Crawley gets decleated. They really they caught him clean. If you watch the replay, here he comes. He's looking at Brown, and somebody, I don't know if it was Andrews, I don't know who picked him up, but popped him in the next week, and he was on his butt, and that's all it took for Brown to get his separation. So, it looks like, how the hell you let that guy run free like that? But if you see in the play, you have to probably get popped.
It's real easy for that to happen when you're looking out your ear hole.
Exactly. So,
Quinn, let me ask you, as a player, you're take you back a little ways, not to make your bones creak or anything, but you're a wide receiver on this 2018 New Orleans Saints team. Knowing what you know,
I'm pulling a hamstring just thinking about it.
Well, yeah, you were talking about that walk that you're going to do in Mandeville, and I hyperventilated, but I kept it off camera. You're a member of this team, this 2018 team, and you're having now at 5-1, you're first place in your division. You're one of the most talked about up and coming teams in the NFC at this point in the season. And now you're having to go back to the scene of absolute heartbreak a year ago, where your season ended in the most painful and unimaginable kind of way with the Minneapolis Miracle ticket hub. I hope it's burn in hell. But how do you approach this game? How do you prepare yourself mentally for exercising those demons that you have to get this win?
Listen, that was a fluke, first of all, and then second of all, it's a new year, it's a new team, so I'm not even thinking about last year and that game and all that. They're just going to prepare, and I think if anything, it plays to the Saints' advantage. Saying, listen, man, we were a better team than this team. We should have won that game. Something unfortunate happened, but let's go out this year and make sure that something unfortunate doesn't happen. So I think that's how they'll approach it. And I don't think that they're looking at last year at all. That's old history.
What's the over under on Marcus Williams being the player of the game for the defense in this?
You're asking me what's the over under?
Yeah,
I've never been much on odds.
Yeah.
I mean, but listen, I guess we'll just have to see. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be a well-fought game and a tough game. But I definitely see the Saints coming out on top on this one.
Yeah, and I got to agree. I think the over/under will be how many times you're going to see that damn play before the game actually starts. They're going to show that play over and over and over again in this game.
Yeah.
Every time I see that play, it almost feels like it should involve toilet paper. And I'll leave that at that. I think that going up against the Vikings now, they're not the same team that they were in January, 9 long and short months ago.
Right.
The defense is, as compared to what you saw in the playoffs a year ago, the defense is underperforming drastically compared to then. You have a new quarterback in Kirk Cousins. The last time Kirk Cousins played against the New Orleans Saints, it winded up being a meltdown of epic proportions. When he was with the Redskins a year ago, I'm not at all intimidated. As a matter of fact, I'm quite optimistic as to our chances in this game. But once again, it's going to have to be a direct game plan, and they're going to have to stay on task and finish the job.
I agree with you, Sean. I think the big thing is, if you think about this game, this is the third time the Saints are playing the Vikings in 14 months, okay? Going back to the season opener on Monday Night Football last year. The Vikings have gone through now 3 different quarterbacks since that time. We played Sam Bradford on opening night, 2017. In the playoffs, we played Keenum. And then in this game coming up, we're going to be playing Kirk Cousins. So that's how different these teams are now. So that's one thing. It's kind of, as far as saying the revenge game and stuff like that, that's more of a fan issue than a player issue. It's a redemption game for Marcus Williams. If he makes the play that seals the win, then it's a redemption game for him. But as far as making up for last year and revenge and all that stuff, for even Marcus Williams, that's not in the cards. I think that the Saints' offense is better than it was in January of this year. I think the Vikings' defense is worse than it was in January of this year. The question will be, as always, the Vikings offense with Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs versus the Saints defense. To me, that's the key of the game. The Saints defense is going to have to be able to pressure Cousins into making the kind of mistakes he made when he was with Washington, and you can't allow Thielen, Diggs, Randolph at all just to run wild in that secondary. You can't allow that. We can't have a shootout here. It's got to be a physical game, just like it was with Baltimore.
To me, the key to the game is not waiting until halftime to start playing.
Yeah,
and that goes back to January. Had the New Orleans Saints played the first half the way they played the second half of that playoff game, it would not have even been close. But woulda, shoulda, coulda. It doesn't matter now. I think that what happened, and by the same token, what happened plays a great deal in what has brought this team to the point that it's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
what happened in Minneapolis in January has been a huge motivating factor in this team taking care of business right now and doing what they're doing. And if it's not, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Agreed. Hey, listen, guys, I have to get running. But thanks for having me on here. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on November the 3rd at Empastada's. Have all the fans, all you guys come out at 5 p.m. We'll have a great time, sign some autographs, just a little meet and greet type of thing. And go on to bryantacres.com and order that book. And if you email the receipt to me at bryantacres@gmail.com, you'll have a chance to win either dinner with us or a Saints football helmet signed by the whole team for this year. So
absolutely, that sounds fantastic. Well, thank you, Quinn, as always, for being a part of the show. Your insight as a former player is always appreciated, and I know our fans that are watching it loved hearing what you had to say about those days. And we'll talk about Iowa one day. And hopefully Iowa gets in a bowl game soon. We'll bring you back, talk about Iowa again.
Okay, absolutely. And I'll tell you, so I have a bet with Jim because I think they play Purdue this week. So me and Jim Everett have been talking, and loser has to buy lunch. So
there you go. Thank you, Quinn. Appreciate you.
Guys
Thank you so much, Quinn.
All right.
Got it. Bye.
Bye-bye.
As always, Quinn Early. So I'm very glad he got to be on the show again, and everything worked out fine for him. But anyway, talking about the keys to victory, I think those are the big things. The Saints defense versus the Vikings offense, because I think, as much as you don't like the novelty act, that is Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill acts as that wild card, that joker, if you will, on the offense, as a running back, as a receiver, as a quarterback. You don't quite know what he's going to do, and it really creates a conundrum for the defense.
Let me give me a moment to clarify.
Okay.
I don't hate Taysom Hill.
No, I know you don't. I know you don't.
And when he pitches to Alvin Kamara, since Alvin Kamara is my starting running back in fantasy, I'm good with that. No, seriously. The problem that I have is I don't want the Saints to get too cute and too carried away with it. I have a problem when you have a first ballot Hall of Famer quarterback that you completely eliminate from the mix. Now, if Taysom Hill raises up and throws Drew Brees a dart, which eventually, if they continue to do this, that's coming.
Yes.
If that be the case, that's fine. But when you eliminate one of your primary players from the mix, I think that's being wasteful. That's not taking advantage of what tools that you have at your disposal. I'm not against Taysom Hill. I appreciate every yard that he's gained. It almost looked the other day like Drew checked down to a run play, turned around, pitched the ball. Taysom Hill was there, and he was like, "What the hell was that?"
Well, I tell you what. Let me just interrupt real quick, because that was probably my favorite thing that Taysom Hill did almost the whole game, aside from being up back in the fake punt. I liked him in the backfield as the running back, because can you imagine a defensive coordinator looking at this? What are they going to do with this? What is this going to be?
Yeah.
Is this going to be a flea flicker? Is this going to be an option pass? What is this? What are they doing here? And he took that pitch and ran 10 yards, got a first down. That was amazing. So I don't like taking Drew up the field either. I like the expansion of his role, so it's not always going to be, okay, Taysom Hill's got the ball, it's the Wildcat, he's going to run, or the RPO, he's going to run up the middle. Maybe he might fake it to Kamara, maybe he might hand it to Kamara, but that's basically where they're going. We know where they're going to be. No. Brees and Hill in the backfield at the same time. Hill could line up as a wide receiver. He could line up as a tight end, as a running back. Where is he going? Drew might go move out to a wide receiver. They might actually throw him the ball. Who knows? And that's what I do like. I like the uncertainty it creates in defenses because they're not quite sure. That's why I use that 3-card Monty thing. Find the lucky lady. Find the lucky lady. Who's going to get the ball here? And I'm waiting for a wishbone offense with Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, and Mark Ingram. Where they really option or something where people are like, where the hell did this come from? And it gives coaches more things they have to look at on film. So it's a lot of it's going to be a lot of fun to watch how this expands.
Yeah. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We're way over time.
Yes,
as is usually the case. We want to invite you to subscribe to us on iTunes and on YouTube. Thank Fan First Productions for being our sponsor. Everybody in the area, Black Friday, 2 Dudes Brew and Q. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Thank you all, as always, for sticking with us, and we'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.